Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. This is my recap for the anime The Witch and the Beast. If you like my recaps, please consider subscribing. The story begins as some coffin-carrying dude named Ashif and a girl named Giddy get off a train. These two emos are looking for a certain witch and ask the first girl they see if she is one or if she has seen one. Giddy is seriously impatient, so Ashif apologizes for her behavior and explains that she just can't contain her excitement when it comes to witches. He reveals that they don't actually know what the witch they are looking for looks like, but they are lucky to have found someone who knows a witch. This strange girl is named Mary, and she reveals that it wasn't luck at all, as she is not the only one who knows Lady Witch. In fact, everyone in the city knows the witch, and it shouldn't be long before they find her. Just then, all the glass windows shatter around them, and they find a giant monster outside. This giant street shark crushes a bunch of dumb cops that were trying to shoot at it, and our two emos determine that a really powerful mage must be behind it. Giddy thinks it's a witch that has finally revealed herself, but the strange girl from earlier tells them that they are wrong. The person behind the attack is not the person they are looking for. Down on the street, the person referred to as Lady Witch powers up a spell and launches it right at the muscled up street shark. The tiny little attack explodes inside of the shark monster, revealing the person that was inside. This man is arrested and Lady Witch is celebrated as the city's savior. She is the city's hero, but Ashif is surprised since she is a witch. He also points out that the weird girl seems way too happy about the witch's celebrity status, so she reveals that she is Lady Witch's apprentice. Mary runs off to prepare an introduction for the emos, and Ashif is glad that they didn't waste any time at all in finding the witch. He reminds Giddy that their mission is their #1 priority. He warns her against acting on impulse, but he's shocked to find that she is long gone. Mary greets the witch named Lone and expresses her excitement for the big night they have ahead of them. The shark guy is furious as he wonders how everyone could just forget what the witches had done before and calls them all crazy for treating her like a hero now. Just then, Giddy appears out of nowhere to attack the one she calls a filthy witch, but Lone blocks her and uses magic to tie her up. Giddy uses some pretty foul language to point out that she is certain that Lone remembers her, but Lone says she isn't sure about what she's talking about. Giddy has no clue how Lone convinced everyone that she is the hero and explains that witches bring only disaster and misfortune. Just then, a bunch of crows push the police back, and Ashif appears out of nowhere. He exclaims that things always end up this way, and he wishes Giddy would just stay back and leave things to him. Mary is of course upset, and Ashif explains that this was all a misunderstanding. The crowd gets restless as they begin to throw things at our protagonists and demand that they be arrested. Ashif uses some kind of dark magic to get him out of there, but Giddy doesn't want to leave as their target is right in front of them. Ashif apologizes to the two ladies and teleports them away anyway. We then learn that 400 years ago, a wicked witch cast a curse on the city, turning it into a doomland consumed by hellfire. However, the witch was defeated and the curse was sealed. Ashif and Giddy then arrive at the castle where the curse is said to be sealed. It's also the current residence of Lone, but that's all just based off a pamphlet he bought at a gift shop. To Giddy, all witches are evil, but this witch they are dealing with now has made a good reputation for herself. A group of ladies arrive and explain that they are there for a party to celebrate some kind of anniversary. Before they can explain what kind of anniversary, Mary welcomes them inside. She is shocked to see the two goth kids and refuses to let bad people like them inside. Giddy points out that all witches are crazy and she can't understand why Mary is defending one. Mary explains that in the past, the city treated witches terribly because of the wicked witch. Lone hated this fact and worked hard to help the city. She protected the city from disasters and evildoers using magic. She saved many people in the process, including Mary. After years of trying, Lone's efforts were rewarded and discrimination against witches in the city ended. That is why Mary refuses to let anyone that hates witches near Lone. Ashif warns her against believing everything she hears and reveals that there is something questionable about the sealed hellfire that is supposedly a witch's curse. He explains that a witch's curse is never something that can just be sealed, so if something is sealed there, then it's definitely something other than a curse. Ashif didn't expect Mary to believe him, but he asks her not to put too much trust in the witch either. He explains that witches always come with two things, secrets and danger. Mary has had enough of listening to the emo and demands that they leave, but Ashif would just like to know what they are celebrating. Mary is clearly pretty dumb though, as she explains that she has no clue, and Lone is the only one who knows. Giddy is ready to break in, but Ashif just learned about something he wants to study more. He hopes it's nothing, but it's unlikely considering they're dealing with a witch. In the castle, all the witch's guests are amazed by the setup, and Mary explains that she just turned away the jerks that were talking about Lone like she was evil. Elsewhere, while Giddy stuffs her face, Ashif uncovers the terrifying true history buried in the past. It has to do with the place the fire was sealed and this exact date. Ashif is upset since he wanted to handle this situation in a civilized way, but there is no hope for that now. Ashif declares that he will let Giddy go through with her mission, so she gets so excited she eats a butter knife. As they leave their hotel, some police try to stop them on Lady Witch's orders. It's clear that these guys are just under her control, and it proves that Lone is evil. Ashif uses his tattoo magic thing, and crows cause chaos. Outside, they find that their wanted level is almost at 5 stars, as several cops are waiting for them. Giddy is furious at Lone and vows to punch her right in her stupid face when she sees her. Back at the castle, things have taken a really bad turn for Mary, as she wakes up to find that her hands and feet are missing. All the other guests are doing just as bad, but the witch tells her not to be afraid since they're all just becoming keys for her. She snuck a spell into their bodies during training, and they will now be keys to release the hellfire that sleeps in the city. Lone then shocks the handless girl by revealing that the wicked witch was her grandmother. Her grandmother actually wasn't wicked at all, as she was the one that sealed the fire and saved the city. The true cause of the fire remains a mystery. However, witches were always getting blamed for disasters, and her grandmother was executed because of it. Lone has endured countless attacks on her life as well, so she doesn't plan on forgiving any of it. Mary begs her to stop, but Lone reveals that this day is too special to let pass. Exactly 417 years ago, the seal was put in place, and this day is the one day when its power awakens. Just then, one of the human keys opens the first lock. Just this one lock causes a massive fire to break out in the city. Lone celebrates this amazing day, but Giddy arrives to break up the party. Unfortunately, Lone stops her easily. Giddy tries once more, but Lone uses her immense power to push her back. Lone is shocked that someone as powerless as Giddy would even try to attack her. Lone is no fool though, and already knows that Giddy was just serving as a distraction. She unleashes an attack on the sneaky Ashif, but he blocks it just as he finished up putting up a barrier around all the girls. Lone is amazed that he caught onto her plan and wonders just who this guy is. Ashif plays it real cool though, and explains that everyone has something to hide. That is especially true when speaking to witches, as he points out that people should never open their hearts to a witch. She calls this prejudice, and points out that prejudice is what caused this problem in the first place. Her grandmother was burned at the stake because of it, so she is just trying to make things right. Mary tries to talk some sense into Lone, and points out that all the people that wronged her grandmother are gone. All the people in the city now love Lone. Lone explains that their love only came because she was using them to build the groundwork for her plan. Gaining their trust made breaking the seal far easier. Lone then shows how seriously evil she is, as she explains that getting revenge on someone whose face you can't see is like getting revenge on an ant. Making friends with all the citizens now allows her to appreciate them as the targets of her revenge. The result now is that their suffering gives her great satisfaction. Ashif tries to stop her from unlocking more of the seal, but Lone holds him back. Giddy reveals that she isn't done just yet, and proclaims that she hates witches just as much as Lone hates humans. Giddy then demands to know if Lone remembers her or the mark on her neck. Lone laughs and realizes now that Giddy wants to undo a witch's curse. However, a witch's curse is incredibly difficult to remove. There are only 2 ways to undo one. First, a loving kiss from a Prince Charming, meaning a heartfelt kiss from one's partner in pure mutual love. Second is getting the witch who cursed the person to undo it. Unfortunately, Lone explains that she is not the witch Giddy is looking for, so she cannot undo her curse. Lone lights her up with flames and tells her that she just wasted her time since she has no information on the witch she was mistaking her for. Just then, Ashif reveals that Lone has made one crucial error. She doesn't have to be the witch who cast the curse to lift it. Giddy emerges from the flames to approach Lone, but Lone instantly pierces her body with an attack. Giddy shockingly smiles, however, and plants a kiss right on the witch. Ashif reveals a third way to remove a curse, and that is to kiss a witch. Darkness flows out of Giddy's body and right into the coffin Ashif always carries. Lone has no clue what is happening and is stunned when a beast begins to emerge from the coffin. Lone feels its menacing aura, but can't understand how she doesn't sense any powerful magic. She wonders if this is Giddy's true self, and Ashif hopes that Giddy isn't too rusty. Realizing the danger, Lone fires an attack, but Monster Giddy is completely unharmed. The witch tries an even more powerful attack, but Giddy once again is unscathed. Lone reaches into her bag of tricks to unleash her most powerful spell, and Mary wonders why Ashif isn't helping in the fight. Ashif reveals that he is merely a first-rate mage, and he would be of no help at all in this battle. That isn't a problem though, as his help is not needed one bit. This is because Giddy is the most terrifying of all creatures, and the witch's greatest and only natural enemy. Just then, Giddy emerges from the smoke to grab Lone, and with just one punch sends the witch flying. Lone can only wonder what this creature is, as she is defeated. Monster Giddy collapses, and Ashif recovers normal Giddy's body. Afterwards, Ashif is glad to see that the fire is getting under control, but Giddy is furious to have run into another dead end. Ashif agrees that it's a shame since this method can undo the curse, but not forever. For a more permanent solution, they will have to find the one they are searching for. Back at the castle, we see that all the girls have their hands and feet again. Mary realizes that she misjudged the two emos, and thinks back to what Ashif told her the night before. Their job is to bring witches back to the Order, and the Order tackles all manner of magic-related trouble. Their business with the city is over, so the two head home. Elsewhere, some guy offers to walk a girl home after they hear a strange noise. This girl don't need no man, so she walks home alone, but she does notice that there are quite a few crows just hanging out around there. No one seems to be following her when she checks behind her, but that's only because the person is in front of her. This thing takes her out in a seemingly painful way, but it determines that it wasn't enough, and it has to add more of something. Back with our heroes, they are called to a job for some crazy rich collector. A specimen from his collection has escaped, and it is incredibly violent. It has already claimed many victims, and Ashif can tell by the way the guy talks about it that it's not just any old rare creature. He really hopes it's not a magical beast, but unfortunately it is. This thing looks like a giant platypus, but it's seriously powerful. Ashif is told that they are supposed to recapture the giant beast quickly, and without harming it. Giddy isn't interested in fighting some boring beast, so she lets Ashif handle the pet sitting duties. They are on the clock, so Ashif has no choice but to handle it on his own. Ashif tells some guy that matter manipulation is the most basic of spells, but controlling fluids requires a particular knack. Ashif reveals that he has always struggled with it, but Giddy calls him a liar as he uses the magic to control a ball of water. Ashif launches it at the Platysaurus, but it easily knocks it away. This thing comes after him, but he still has control over the water. He reforms the ball of water and uses it to begin suffocating the beast. Giddy couldn't be any more bored, and the guy who brought them there is shocked when Ashif explains that the job is done. The rich collector expresses his relief since he hired the right person, and he explains that magical beasts are illegal in this country. He heard that Ashif would take on any job, and he's glad to see that the info was correct. Ashif corrects him, however, and explains that they only bother with jobs involving magic. He tells the guy to contact the Order of Magical Resonance if he needs anything else, and they leave. Afterwards, our duo treat themselves to a meal after a job well done, but Giddy has a bad attitude as always. Their past few jobs did involve magic, but they were the equivalent of petty crimes. Giddy is furious since this isn't the reason she joined the Order. She demands that Ashif hurry up and find her a witch, as anything else is just a waste of time. Ashif must explain to her that cases involving witches don't just grow on trees, and reminds her that their relationship is a give and take. In exchange for helping Giddy achieve her goal, she agreed to serve the Order however they see fit. They already get priority when witch cases pop up, so until then, Giddy has to do her job. If she doesn't behave, however, she can kiss any future witch cases goodbye. She agrees to do her job, but points out that Ashif didn't even need her against Platzilla. Just then, the two receive a letter from the Order, and Ashif must use his special Order ring to break the seal. Ashif tells her that it's good news, and they head off onto their new job. Upon arriving at their destination, Giddy assumes that the first person they see is a witch, but the old lady's actually just their client. This lady wants Ashif to open some little chest she has, and he notices a runic inscription underneath it. Luckily for her, he is an expert at undoing spells, so after that, the job is done. Giddy is furious as she thought a witch would be involved, but Ashif never actually said that. He explains that him leaving his coffin behind should have been a dead giveaway, but she just demands to know what the good news was that he was talking about. Ashif just wanted her to start taking non-witch cases more seriously, and tells her to take this little trick he pulled as a learning experience. Giddy of course doesn't want to hear all of this nonsense, but they don't have time to argue as their next job has already come in. Giddy will let it slide for now, but as soon as her curse is lifted and she doesn't need the Order anymore, she promises to end Ashif's life. Ashraf wouldn't have it any other way and actually looks forward to that day. Sometime later, Ashraf reveals that they have had an entire month without encountering a witch. This makes it pretty clear that the day Giddy will be able to reclaim her real body is still a long way off. They get their next job, but Giddy assumes that it's just more boring busy work and tells Ashraf to just tear up the letter. That would be a big mistake, however, as this job is different since it came in a black envelope. The order only sends these when a witch is involved and a big part of the case. This letter reveals that a witch is ending a lot of lives in a distant capital. If that wasn't bad enough, the crimes are described as being grotesque. They will have to travel across an ocean, so he tells Giddy to pack her bags. When he is alone, we see that Ashraf hid a part of the letter. It reveals that this job involves a witch and grimoire, so it definitely won't be easy. Ashraf seems really concerned, but Giddy couldn't be happier. A quick scene shows a burning building with some lady's children trapped inside, but the same lady named Miss Haynes wakes up from the nightmare. She is a police mage and has just arrived at the scene of a crime where the perpetrator just got away. The bodies left behind seem to have been mutilated, and Haynes points out that crazy life enders usually all have one thing in common: unfulfilled desires born from a sense of inferiority. Losing control of these feelings can turn even upstanding people into crazed civilians. The detective she is with wonders why she didn't finish setting up her wards, but Haynes explains that it wouldn't have made a difference. This witch that they are dealing with has the ability to slip right through them. The plan will be to box in the witch to make her cast as many spells as possible, or else they will never be able to figure out her magic. That will just be the first step in defeating her though, and the entire city's police force has to take this case slow and steady. A feeble police force can't fight a monster like this any other way. Haynes is the only mage that the city's police force has, but this case is unlike anything they have ever had to deal with. Witches are technically the responsibility of the Paladin Corps, so he recommends that Haynes talk to the mayor if she can't handle it. If things don't change from how they are now, then the body count will continue to rise. This detective tells her not to blame herself for something that happened to another detective, and she points out that she has handled plenty of horrific cases. People always remember the perpetrators and forget the victims in no time. However, someone ended the lives of people she cared about, and Haynes now realizes that she would never forget the names of either. Nearby, Giddy's upset that the witch just slipped right through their fingers, but Ashraf assures her that the witch will come back. Ashraf explains that this case is known as the witch's pastime. Grotesque mass end life committed by a witch, and as of last week, the victim's total is 36. Ashraf wonders what the body count is up to after today's attack, and Haynes hears him just like he wanted her to. Haynes can tell that they know who she is, so she wonders who they are. She wastes no time by quickly grilling them with questions, and wonders why they have a coffin with them. Haynes prepares a spell behind her back, but Ashraf can easily tell, and tells her to calm down as they are not enemies. They actually want to help her, and he reveals that he is from the Order. They go to a restaurant after Haynes confirmed with the mayor that he requested help from the Order. As they eat, Ashraf asks for all the details of the case, but Haynes wants to hear their story first. They have gotten the mayor's approval to help with the case, but she doesn't trust them yet. Ashraf points out that they are running out of time since the Paladin Corps will step in soon. The mayor is holding them back for some reason though, so Ashraf and Giddy are their only hope. Ashraf points out that the police forces are not equipped to handle witches, and what they need is an army. That is why global peacemakers like the Paladin Corps handle witches. It's pretty clear to him that the mayor is holding them back to claim the victory of solving the case without them. Haynes is in charge of the case since she is the city police's only mage, but Ashraf can't understand why she's going along with the mayor's stupid decision. Giddy has had enough of this boring conversation and demands that Haynes just tell them everything she knows about the witch. That way she can end the case by eliminating her. Haynes can't understand why Giddy's so obsessed with the witch and points out that most people would steer clear of a witch mass life ender. Ashraf interrupts Giddy to give Haynes some politically correct answer, but she tells him to stop. They agree to let her put up a soundproof ward to keep the conversation private, but she reveals that she created this ward herself, and it also allows her to tell when someone is lying. Our two heroes are impressed by this sneaky move, so they have no choice but to answer. Ashraf reveals that they are just trying to undo a curse. Giddy is under a witch's curse, so they are looking for the witch who cast it. They have basically nothing to go on, so their search is more or less at random. Giddy vows to get revenge, and this word triggers a memory inside of Haynes. Haynes realizes now that their motives are extremely personal, but she can trust them over great and noble causes. Haynes reveals that she was actually lying about her truth-detecting ward, which of course infuriates Giddy, and Haynes decides to accept their help. Their partnership will start the next morning, where they will meet back up at this restaurant. While this group of useless anime characters finish up their long boring conversation, we see that the witch is back at it again. She takes out another victim in a grotesque way and laughs like a lunatic. The next morning we learn that the criminal witch has been leaving messages. All the messages are sort of riddles, and one of their answers is witch. This makes it clear that the witch wants everyone to know that she is one. One of the answers to one of the riddles is human though, so the police have come to the conclusion that none of them really mean anything. The case is called the witch's pastime because the witch just seems to be playing a game. However, that game has come back to bite the witch, as Haynes has realized that some of the riddles were quotes from a book. They arrive at a bookshop that has just ordered the exact book. Ashif is impressed with Haynes, but he is surprised when she explains that it was just luck, since she has a copy of the same book. Giddy calmly opens the door and has her two companions enter. Inside, they find a corpse, and its wound shows magical damage. Its eyes were gouged out, so they determine that it must have saw something. Ashif can't understand why she would bother leaving messages if she's going to try to cover up her trail, but Haynes reminds him that it's all just a game to the witch. Ashif thinks the tired-looking Haynes should get some rest, but she warns him not to get too close to her. Of course, this is a bit strange, but she explains that nothing good comes to those that get close to her. Just then, she is informed that another body has been found, along with a message. It reads, "I'm a disease. Disease propagates and spreads. This disease is called a curse, a witch's curse." That night, Haynes leaves after a disappointing day of investigating. Just then, Giddy tells Ashif to get ready, as something has appeared. This is really bad timing though, as Ashif left the coffin at their hotel. An explosion occurs, and Ashif calls Giddy an idiot for just rushing in blindly. Some mystery person appears, and Giddy instantly attacks them, but she misses. The witch disappeared seemingly like smoke, so Ashif can tell that she is not only powerful, but an escape artist as well. Ashif wonders why this person appeared out of nowhere, and Giddy assumes that it was tailing Haynes. Ever since they met up with Haynes, Giddy has felt someone watching them. They surprise Haynes as she heads home, and explain that they had a little run-in with the witch. They of course lost her, so Haynes gives up all hope in them being useful. Ashif stops her from helping Giddy, as he has already performed healing magic on her. Ashif then shocks Haynes when he asks her what kind of connection she has with the witch. He points out that the witch has no clue who they are, so she must have been tailing Haynes. He goes on to explain that the witch announces herself through the messages in the hopes of drawing out the paladins. However, no matter how hard she tries, only the police oppose her. Giddy explains what she would do to bring out the paladins if she were the witch. She would eliminate all the small fry police or take out their boss. Despite all of that, the witch waited till their group split up and attacked Ashif and Giddy instead of Haynes. Haynes becomes furious and wonders why the witch just won't attack her. Haynes realizes something in this very moment, and Giddy tells her to cough it up. Haynes begins her story of how the case started with the burning of her house. Her children were trapped inside, but there was nothing anyone could do. The culprit left a message on a wall across the street. It read, "I live on and on without change. I bear heir after heir without change." The answer to this riddle was clearly a witch. They arrived at the place left by the message and were greeted with a purple smoke. Haynes told everyone to get back, but the brave Ruben decided that he would take on the witch all on his own. This was crazy, but Ruben was determined to defeat the witch that took those kids' lives. His bravery only led to his head exploding, and Haynes couldn't bear to see more death. Ruben was her magic teacher and boyfriend, so in the end she lost him and her sons. Giddy and Ashif being targeted makes it clear that the witch's goal that day was to lure Ruben away from her to eliminate him. For some reason, the witch is targeting people she cares about. The witch mistook them for friends and tried to wipe out our heroes. This culprit clearly has some kind of grudge against Haynes, but she says that it's perfect. If the witch is hung up on her, then she might get a shot at revenge. It's clear now why Haynes goes along with the mayor's wishes, and it's for revenge. Haynes concedes that she put her revenge ahead of the lives of citizens, and needless sacrifices keep racking up. Ashif can't fault her for wanting revenge, but points out that she looks miserable chasing after it. She becomes upset because he is right, but she can't do anything else about the pain and hatred she has inside her. Giddy has heard enough and puts it simply, if someone wants revenge, then they should just do it. Giddy points out that Haynes wants to end the witch's life to get relief, and she explains that revenge feels great. Haynes doesn't think they are anything alike, and Ashiff wishes she wouldn't encourage her. Just then, they are told that the witch has left another message, which explains that she will be arriving at the station in 3 days. Haynes wonders if she can really trust these two to handle the witch, but Giddy assures her. They will take down the witch, and Giddy will show Haynes what makes revenge so sweet. 3 days later, Haynes explains that the witch's main spell is purple smoke. She can crush most things with it or send them flying. Her vanishing spell is also a concern. Haynes wonders what Ashiff did with some leather sacks she gave him, but he doesn't really answer. Haynes wonders if eliminating the witch might make everyone a little happier like Giddy said, and Ashiff is sure it will. Giddy gets upset since her stomach is now empty and the witch is late. Haynes would like to know how she plans to fight the witch, but Giddy just tells her to shut up and watch. She will undo the curse on her, and the witch will be nothing for her afterwards. Haynes is shocked that Giddy's depending on that, since there is no way to know if this was the witch that originally cursed her. Ashiff explains that there is another way to undo a curse, and that is what they are gambling on. If they face a witch and meet certain conditions, they will see the return of a monster even witches fear. Just then, the witch makes her appearance, but Ashiff tells Giddy not to jump the gun. The witch wastes no time by unleashing her fog, and a strange noise can be heard. Haynes warns everyone to be careful of the witch's old tricks, but no one even knows what's happening. Given how little they can see, Ashiff determines that they can't attack recklessly because they have allies. Their opponent, however, is completely free to cut loose. They are all in a really bad spot, and the witch starts wiping out cops. When the witch vanishes, Haynes explains that she can manage to stay alive as long as it's all she focuses on. Giddy is still alive as well, but she is upset since she wishes Ashiff would just let her take out the witch already. Ashiff points out that it won't do any good right now, since the witch has a way to escape easily. They need to corner the witch first, and Haynes explains that she has already made all the preparations he asked for. She hopes Ashiff has a plan for what comes next, and he surprises her by revealing that he has already found the witch. He points out how there have been a lot more crows appearing, and explains that those are his familiars. He can see everything they can, so the witch can't escape no matter where she goes. They all go to the witch's hideout, but the witch quickly takes out a poor cop. We get our first look at this person, and Giddy appears to get the jump on them. Giddy is attacked by someone else though, and Ashiff wishes Giddy wouldn't just rush ahead all the time. Giddy reveals that there were 2 of them, but most importantly, they aren't witches at all. The 2 strangers can't believe they are alive, and are annoyed when they realize that Ashiff is a mage. They aren't alone as Haynes is there as well, but she is shocked when she realizes that these 2 boys are her sons. They never wanted Haynes to find out, and she wonders what they are doing there. Haynes comes to the horrifying conclusion that her 2 boys were the witch, but refuses to believe it. She is certain that they don't have that kind of power. Ashiff points out that the books they are holding are the truth behind their power. It's the 2-volume grimoire called Sarnavasis. Grimoires provide power and perform spells for the wielder. No magical aptitude is even needed, and just holding one grants power almost on par with witches. They are a type of forbidden instrument, which are taboo tools of dark magic. Either part of a 2-volume grimoire can summon its other half instantly across space. It can only be done at a certain range, so Ashiff was able to locate them in next to no time. Haynes wonders where they got the grimoires from, and the boys point out that they got it from her desk. They blame her for them ending up this way, and explain that they don't like ending lives. These grimoires give them power, but they have to feed them lives. Even worse, the books will eat them if they don't give them sacrifices. Just touching the grimoires made them this way, so they had no other choice. Haynes is shocked, but their little story makes Giddy laugh. She explains that she saw some of the bodies of their victims, and she could tell that they loved every moment. Haynes comes to her senses as well, and asks them why they took Ruben's life when he loved them both. The boys refuse to give any more answers, since it's a fight to the death, but one of them is in bad shape. The confident Ashiff then reveals that there are 3 reasons why these guys have no chance against them. First is that they failed to pay their grimoire's price. The boys tell him that he is wrong, as they have already taken 10 lives today, but Ashiff shockingly shows them one of their supposed victims. He reveals that they were actually just dummies, a leather sack stuffed full of red liquid. They aren't good enough to withstand a close inspection, but the little fog they like to use made it impossible for them to notice. The boys are furious and point out that the grimoire gives them all the power they need to take more lives right now. Giddy easily avoids their measly attacks though, and she launches some rocks with so much force that it separates the books from their hands. Ashiff then reveals the second reason why they will lose. Even without undoing the curse, Ashraf and Giddy are still really strong. Giddy destroys these guys, and Ashraf points out that they didn't even need reason number 3. Afterwards, the guys explain that they have a seriously unhealthy love for their adoptive mother, and they didn't want anyone getting close to her. Giddy tells Haynes that she will take care of them if she won't end it, but Haynes has it taken care of. These guys thought that she loved them, to which she explains that she did. However, they cross the line in the worst way, so now she doesn't even pity them. Haynes clearly feels nothing now and takes them out. A quick look back shows the boys wondering why Haynes adopted them. Her answer was simple, as she wanted to show them what it felt like to be loved. Afterwards, Giddy's upset at Ashraf since he must have known that it wasn't really a witch. He explains that a man catches up quickly when he knows as many dark secrets as the Order does. On top of that, nothing would have kept the Paladin Corps out of a real witch case. Haynes arrives to thank them for their help, and Ashraf explains that he will be taking the grimoires. Haynes doesn't even recall ever seeing them, but Ashraf explains that forbidden instruments have wills of their own. They find the right person at the right time. Haynes points out that while the boys were never the most well-behaved, they never would have ended up that way if it wasn't for the grimoires. Ashraf offers some strange bit of comfort as he explains that the deaths they would have suffered for failing to pay the grimoire's price would have been more horrible than anything. Haynes leaves and Ashraf makes sure to tell her to let them know if a witch ever comes around. Sometime later, Ashraf is thanked for a job well done. Just then, a maniac is being chased, so Giddy stops him. Ashraf must tell her not to end his life, and the cops explain that this guy is undead. Necromancy is a common occurrence in this world, but there are several rules to govern it. This guy seems to have went a long time without necromantic maintenance and lost his mind. Giddy thought that the undead would look way worse than this guy does, but Ashraf explains that resurrection techniques have improved in recent years. They hardly look any different from the living, but they need to be maintained by a necromancer. The neglected ones lose their mind, but that is a rare occurrence. That isn't the case in this town though, as more and more undead are beginning to lose their minds. The girl Ashraf helped points out that they are from the Order of Magical Resonance, but Ashraf reveals that the undead are not his specialty. Luckily for them though, the Order does have a necromantic specialist. Their names are Johan and Fenora. Fenora states how cold it is in this town, but Johan points out that it's actually blazing hot. Johan complains about all their baggage, but Fenora reminds him of his role. Johan thinks he is her talented right-hand man, but she clarifies that he's more of a servant. Police officer Jeff explains to them that crazed undead rampages have become a frequent occurrence. They are currently studying 6 of the undead, and they are waiting on maintenance from their necromancers. This would be easy to fix, but the police don't know who the necromancers are that revived them. The ones responsible are the only ones that can do the maintenance, so they need to find them immediately. Fenora then reminds them of the rules. To be revived as an undead, the person and their family need to consent to it. Also, the necromancer must disclose all the facts of the procedure to the patient. Those are the most important rules, but there are several more as necromancy is a sensitive topic. When a person is resurrected involuntarily and given no explanation, they are called strays. Since they didn't agree to it, they don't even fully understand that they are dead. Turning undead comes with risks, but strays are never ready for it and just end up suffering the consequences. Elsewhere, some lady mourns a man's death, and a strange person begins asking her questions about him. She explains that she can't afford necromancy, but the man tells her to leave everything to him. Fenora is told that this city has 4 necromancers, and they oversee 21 undead creatures in total. 21 is a lot, especially since necromancy is banned in most countries. Jeff is uneasy about it all, but he can understand why people would want to revive their loved ones. Johan doesn't want to criticize his opinion, but warns that Fenora doesn't like it when Jeff calls them creatures. This is because she doesn't discriminate between the living and the dead. Fenora shows them a lantern and explains that it is used to lure out any undead that have lost their sanity or are about to. Only the undead can see the lantern's light, and to their neglected eyes it outshines everything else. It works pretty well as the undead begin to arrive, but everyone is shocked when there are a lot more than expected. A look into the past shows Jeff at a funeral. His fiancée just died, but he agreed with her parents that they should not resurrect her. Regardless of what everyone was saying, Jeff didn't believe that the techniques were good enough to make the undead just like they were when they were alive. He loved his fiancée, which is why he refused to let her become one of those monsters. Back to the present, Jeff is still haunted by that feeling. There are at least 40 undead, and they have all lost their minds. That leaves them with no other choice but to fight, so Fenora makes Johann their center of attention by putting the lantern's light on him. Johann is quickly overwhelmed, but Fenora tells the officers not to help him. She explains that Johann is fine, but that's pretty hard for the officers to believe since Johann is begging them for help. There's an abnormal amount of undead, so Fenora presumes that they all came from the same place. Also, she only lit the lantern 40 minutes ago, so the place they came from should be nearby. Johann finishes up eliminating all the undead, but he is upset. Fenora calms him down with a compliment, but the officers tell him to be careful with beautiful women. Fenora inspects the bodies of the undead and notices that they haven't been fully grown. They're all missing fingers, limbs, and parts of their faces. They were poorly resurrected, almost as if the necromancer never intended to make them people at all. Necromancers can make undead in 3 different states. One where they have a will of their own, another where they only retain their minds, and the third is a state where the necromancer controls them completely. This lantern only attracts the ones in the first 2. These undead that they just encountered didn't seem to have any direction at all. They determined that the only reason for this would be that the necromancer was done using them. What they were using them for is still unknown, but Fenora wonders if it's for human experimentation. Jeff is furious to hear that they are just being used like toys, and he condemns the practice of necromancy. Just then, they notice that most of the undead are women with red hair. Jeff is worried that they might come back to life again, but Johann explains that he killed their bodies. Their souls are stuck to their flesh by magic, so they can always come back with maintenance. However, there's no one here to do it. Just then, one manages to take hold of Fenora, so Johann must rush to eliminate it again. Johann apologizes for leaving one alive, and Fenora points out that they were being watched. Our group traces the undead's footprints back to a mansion deep in the woods. Johann is attacked out of nowhere, so Jeff fires several bullets at the behemoth. A woman welcomes them, but the voice she uses clearly belongs to the man controlling her. Our group is welcomed inside, but Jeff thinks they should run away. The necromancer pleads with them to do as he says, since he doesn't want to hurt the woman. Jeff is then shocked to hear that he knows his name. The necromancer explains that he has undead stationed everywhere, and the police are no exception. He knows how terrible it must have felt for Jeff to have lost his fiancée, but he tells him not to worry. He explains that thanks to necromancy, no parting lasts forever, and he shocks Jeff when he brings out his fiancée. The necromancer determines that this is enough to force Jeff to cooperate, but he doesn't have anything for Fenora. To fix this, the crazy necromancer has the behemoth cut Johann's throat. He demands that Fenora cooperate, since it will be the only way Johann can be brought back to life. A look into the past shows a burning building. A doctor was tasked with performing an autopsy on the woman he loved. He declined an offer to have someone else do it, but we see that it's because he was planning to bring her back to life. Back to the present, Johann's body is dragged away, and Jeff realizes how much Fenora must have cared about him. They meet with the necromancer, who apologizes when his servant collapses. It's just what happens when he disengages control over them. This mansion is filled with undead servants, so Jeff assumes that there must be more than one necromancer. This all requires more magic power than one person can have, but Fenora reveals that it's possible. This necromancer did a poor job reviving them and has neglected doing maintenance. He didn't even bother restoring their organs, so it didn't take much magic power. The necromancer is impressed by how much she knows, and she reminds him of the heavy price the undead must pay. Jeff doesn't know, so she explains that normally, the souls of the dead begin preparing for reincarnation. This preparation is interrupted though, when necromancy drags them back. Magical resurrection doesn't last forever. When the spell eventually fails, and they die a second time, they cannot be reincarnated. Wandering souls go where nothing exists other than their minds. This place is called the Void. This necromancer has deprived them of their right to decide. To decide between accepting death and awaiting reincarnation, or to have a temporary life in exchange for a fate crueler than death. This necromancer couldn't care less. He explains that he's only after the beauty of others. He lost someone just like they did, but he had necromancy, and reuniting with her should have been simple. Unfortunately, her body was burned beyond recognition. He is able to create any number of creatures, but beauty is challenging to recreate. It's not impossible though, so he just needs to gather those who still have what she lost. He has been practicing to improve his technique, which is why there are so many undead. Jeff is shocked that this is the only reason he's doing all this, but the man points out that people value things differently. He brags about how well he has done with the undead in this room, but points out that they pale in comparison to Fenora's beauty. He would like permission to use her, but she is just bored by it all. She is disappointed by his motive and reveals that she only played along because she thought there was more to it. This guy knows that she is a necromancer, but he isn't worried. He points out that she is bound by the rules and orders her capture. Jeff notices that the air is getting cold, and the annoyed Fenora reveals that she is not just a necromancer. The guy is shocked when he sees the writing on her body, and he realizes that she is a witch. It's clear that she won't be cooperating, but that's exactly why he took Johan hostage. A person can't be resurrected without a part of their corpse, so he threatens to have his servant burn away Johan's body. Fenora tells him to do as he wishes, since Johan is a terrible hostage. The man calls upon his undead and reveals that he also made combat types. Fenora calls him a fool and points out that he just made a bunch of mindless puppets. They are barely aware of their own existence, and he has no chance of beating her with them. As she prepares something, she explains that few people in this world decide to become undead knowing that they will fall into the void. Even fewer put themselves in a necromancer's service or control. However, there are a very rare few that offer themselves to a necromancer, and she calls them Death Knights. Fenora tells her Death Knights not to touch Jeff, but allows them to do whatever they like to everyone else. The Death Knights attack immediately and easily eliminate all the undead. Jeff begs his fiancée not to fight them, but it's too late. Killing her body was the only way to stop her, but Fenora promises to make the necromancer pay. The necromancer makes his way to the woman he loved, and he decides that he must remodel her body into the ultimate warrior. Just then, he is shocked as Johan appears behind him. The man can't believe that he is still alive, but Johan reveals that he's actually dead. The necromancer points out that Fenora never had the chance to resurrect him, but Johan explains that he has been undead the entire time. This confuses the necromancer even more, since the undead can't overcome physical death without maintenance. Johan has a simple explanation for this as well, as he reveals that he isn't just any undead. Johan's neck wound heals, and he points out that he is a witch's undead. The necromancer tries to shoot him, but Johan summarizes it by explaining that he's built different. The man begs for his life, but Johan reveals that he isn't going to kill him. He has broken every taboo in the book, but even worse than that, he pissed off Fenora. Johan determines that he isn't worthy of death, and decides that he will begin the punishment with the man's fingers. Fenora joins him soon after, and Johan explains that he left the necromancer alive. Fenora explains to Jeff that she is about to break the law, so she would like for him to keep the entire incident a secret. The Order of Magical Resonance remains shrouded in mystery despite its fame, because they require their clients to sign magical contracts so they don't say anything. Jeff is hesitant, so she tells him that if he wants to save all the victims, then he needs to shut up and do as she says. She puts a bullet in the necromancer's head, and he wakes up soon after. Fenora explains to him that he will maintain all the undead he resurrected as complete humans. She will provide all the magical power needed to do so there is no reason for him to slack off. He can't believe that she turned him into an undead, and he fears what will happen when he enters the void. Fenora points out that he is worried about all the wrong things, since she won't give him a moment's peace while he is still in this world either. Jeff is glad to hear that he will be able to be with his fiancée again, but it will take a while for Fenora to legalize her. Jeff is a bit torn, but he can't help but feel happy. Johan doesn't want Fenora getting too close to the necromancer, but she just tells him to go get her luggage. Jeff feels sorry for Johan since he is treated so poorly, but Johan says that the situation is fine by him. Fenora actually cares about him quite a bit, as she makes the necromancer pay for hurting him. Back with our protagonist, Giddy wakes up to the smell of a delicious meal. She demands that Ashif give her something, but he reminds her to practice patience. It's another letter that details a crime that seems to have been committed by a witch. The mission is to make contact with this witch, but this case is on the third continent. This means that the Paladin Corps will stand in their way, so they will have to fight to claim the witch. They arrive on the continent to find that everyone is evacuating. This is wise because a single witch is capable of leveling an entire city without breaking a sweat. They are stopped from going further into the city, so Ashif comes up with a lie. The soldiers will allow him to go through to see his elderly grandmother, but they check his identity first. Nothing suspicious comes up, so they check his coffin next. Ashif reveals a mark on the coffin, which serves as a church permit for the magical item. That is enough for them, so they let our protagonist pass. They confuse their escort when they stop, and Ashif must tell Giddy not to kill him. Giddy just knocks him out and tells Ashif that they should have just done that from the start. Elsewhere, Commander Kugat is scolded for challenging the witch on his own. His subordinates ask him not to do it again, but he just tells them to continue searching for the witch since she escaped. He vows to defeat her, but he is reminded that his mission is to capture her. The man telling him this is an emissary from the Holy Church. He has been searching for this witch for some time, and he is the only reason they came so close to capturing her. Nearby, Ashif explains that the floating castle is the base where the Paladin Corps operates out of when on missions. It is made using special materials, so even a witch would have a hard time damaging it. Barriers are everywhere in the city, and if they break them, the Paladins would come running. Giddy is annoyed since the witch is inside, so Ashif explains that they just need to open a hole without getting caught. Ashif points out that she has been blessed with an excellent partner, as he just so happens to excel at things like this. Giddy wants him to stop bragging and hurry up, but things like this take time. Just then, a guy is eliminated in front of them, and Giddy spots the witch. She tells Ashif to hurry up, but it will take just a bit more time. Inside, the witch declares that she isn't ready to die just yet. The soldiers are closing in on her, but she proclaims that she has to live since she hasn't had a boyfriend yet. Her swords surround her, and her opponents are eliminated. They're actually just puppets called Seekers, and the Paladin Corps realizes that she just wiped out the entire search team. They were able to get information on her appearance, but the emissary needs to correct them on a lot of it. Kugat points out how he is strangely well informed about her, so he would like to also know what lineage she belongs to. It's the information they need the most, since it will tell them what powers she has. Just then, the soldiers inform them that their second search team was eliminated. They were watching the witch, so it couldn't have been her, but they don't know who it was. Back outside, Giddy comes out of nowhere to attack the witch. Giddy wonders if she recognizes her face, but the witch has no clue who she is. The two fight, and Ashif tells Giddy to keep buying him time. This witch has full control over the sword she summons, but Giddy manages to surprise her. The witch reacts quickly, but Giddy just manages to stop her swords. Just then, the witch is shocked as Ashif finishes casting his spell, and he compresses the witch into a ball. She was so weak that Giddy can tell that she wasn't the witch that cursed her, and she wonders if she's even really a witch at all. Ashif is sure she is a witch, and he explains that she just can't wield her full power. Her being so weak was the only reason Ashif let Giddy charge at her in the first place. Giddy wonders how he knows so much about her, and he points out that it was because of the mark on her face. Back in the castle, the emissary is ready to tell them everything he knows about the girl known as the weakest witch. He explains that it doesn't take a witch to summon swords and control them. However, only one witch's mark takes the shape of swords. Kugat is shocked by this since it means that she is a descendant of a legendary witch named Quina. This witch they are dealing with now is called Helga, and they must be very careful when dealing with her. The emissary knows how strange it sounds, but he reveals that while Helga may be the weakest witch, she also possesses the ability to destroy the world. Ashif is shocked to see that Helga has broken out of his ball, and horrified when he sees that she brought out the demon sword. The emissary explains that the real danger lies in the demon sword Ashkan. It grants the wielder the power to rule the world and brings ruin to everything else. Kugat decides that they must act quickly, but he tells his second in command to watch over the emissary. Down below, Ashif is fighting Helga with his crows, but it isn't going so well. He explains that the demon sword actually can't do much unless someone draws it. Once it's unsheathed, it becomes too much for anyone to handle, even a witch. He isn't sure if it's stronger than Giddy, but he would be interested in finding out. Just then, Helga finds them, so Ashif tells her that he just wants to talk. She points out that they attacked her first, but Ashif thought they didn't have any other choice. Helga wouldn't have talked to them in the first place, but Ashif explains that he just wants to give her shelter. He promises that they are not her enemy, and just wants to help her escape from the Paladin Corps. Just then, Ashif is surprised to hear that the demon sword can talk. It points out that Helga could use some help, but she reminds the sword to keep quiet. Ashif knows that Helga's descendants kept the sword hidden away, so he assumes that she has a good reason for bringing it out in the open. Helga doesn't trust him and refuses to say anything, so Ashif just tells her to take their life. He explains that their mission started because a witch killed 6 people. If she is this witch, then she shouldn't hesitate to eliminate them. Helga stops him from approaching, but he can tell that she lacks the cold heart required to take someone's life. This just makes him want to help her even more, but the sword is skeptical of him. It is sure that Ashif wants to take her life, but the sword is a bit of a comedian and he tells Ashif to just take her. The sword just wants to have fun, so he tells Helga to do whatever they say. Just then, their conversation is interrupted by the paladin avatars. Ashif explains that defeating them does nothing, since they just go back to get resupplied with magic and can re-enter the fight. It's an endless army, and it's the Paladin Corps' main strategy for hunting witches. Ashif creates a 2-layer barrier to protect them from the attack, and he tells Helga to come with them. The sword tells her to take his hand, since she won't be able to survive alone, but she leaves and declares that she doesn't need their help. She oddly thanks them for their offer, but Ashif can't help but feel rejected. He tells Giddy that Helga is not the witch she is after. She needs to change her thinking for this mission and protect Helga with all she's got. Nearby, the sword scolds Helga for being stubborn. Just then, the area begins to freeze, and Kugat arrives to tell Helga to stop fighting the inevitable. He has made up his mind to not let her get away again. Out of nowhere, Giddy comes crashing down and declares that she will make sure this paladin stays dead when she kills him. Thanks for watching my recap. Sign up to my free newsletter if you want to show some support to the channel. Link is in the description.